Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
That's what I'm talking about. All of our guests today are sponsored by Passant Motors. Passant has taken Santa's job. Passant bringing the gifts. Get rates from 4.99%. We got to work on this script, by the way. Did you write this, Ryan? 4.99%. Gifts with vehicle purchase and much more. Learn more at Passant Motors, BASANT Motors.com. We'll talk on the break. Right now, we're joined by Ross Tucker Football Podcast, CBS Sports in Westwood 1. Ross, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm awesome. Evidently, it was Rick that writes those scripts.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's Henderson. He writes them. Get your man right, Ross. Get your man right.
Wait, is that what you call him, Henderson? You call him by his last name.
Oh, Hendo. We call him Hendo.
Yeah.
Hendo.
Nice.
Yeah. So already I've learned after like 5 years or however long it's been, I've learned that Ryan has a nickname named Hendo, which I had no idea.
Hendo.
And that might be the first time I've heard Donnie say sorry. I've been waiting for that. Sorry.
Doesn't happen very often.
We live for that. Sorry. Awesome.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. Sorry it took so long, Ross.
Yeah.
How about that? Hey, let's talk about the Eagles, the team you focus on a lot. 22-16, they squeaked by the Panthers. Saquon Barkley, I know we talked about him a lot on this show this season, but 1,623 yards. He sets an Eagles rushing record for a season. He's still got a bundle of games left. What did you expect from him, Ross, realistically, when he came over from the Giants?
Well, I thought that he would do well. I think the question a lot of people have with him often is durability and whether or not he would make it through the season or make it through multiple years of this contract. But I was really excited to watch him behind this offensive line because, you know, when you watch him with the Giants, when he got a chance to pick up speed and hit the hole with speed, boy, it's breathtaking, and he's got rare combination of size and speed to be able to hit the big ones. So I kind of thought, man, the Eagles, if he gets some of the holes that they've had in recent years, he might take some of those to the house, and he has a bunch. Now, interestingly, he had 120-some yards against the Panthers. I don't know that any of them were longer than 20 yards. They did a nice job of not giving up the super long one that really is the backbreaker. Give Carolina credit in that regard. He had a bunch between like 10 and 15 yards, but they didn't give up the long one for a touchdown, which is one reason why the Panthers were still in the game.
4 games left, to be exact, for the Eagles. We mentioned they beat the Panthers, and one of the big takeaways from that game, other than Saquon Barkley, is that Bryce Young played one of, if not his best game as a pro. Finally, what are you seeing from him?
You know, he looked to me like what I thought he would be the whole time in the NFL. He looked to me like the same Bryce Young that we saw so often at Alabama. Very bright, can get the ball out of his hands quickly at times. When he can't, he has such a unique ability to maneuver the pocket and to seemingly make the right play at the right time. We saw that all the time at Alabama, and we saw it a lot yesterday against the Eagles. You know, they couldn't get him down on the ground. They couldn't sack him. He's like slippery. I don't know what it is because you watch him, he's not super fast. He's obviously not a big guy, you know, that's like breaking tackles, but he just kind of has that quickness and the ability to maneuver where the Eagles could not get him down in the backfield for sacks. And then he would make the right throw and the right play a bunch. You know, I think when he came out of college, I used the comparison of Steph Curry in terms of like a smaller, slender guy that just has such a great natural feel for what they're doing that allows them to excel at what they're doing. That's kind of what I saw yesterday.
Hey, Ross, Seahawks, 4 straight wins, beat the Cardinals. Geno Smith, not sacked. He hasn't thrown a pick in 2 games. And then after the game, he went out of his way to thank the O-line, called them phenomenal. That O-line's taken a beating at times this year. They must like that when the quarterback says, hey, we were phenomenal, Ross. They
love it. It's awesome to get a shout-out, especially when that group had been as maligned as the Seahawks O-line had been earlier in the year. They're starting to get healthier. They're kind of getting some new guys in there. The rookie at right guard. Obviously, Abe Lucas is back now at right tackle, and they're playing better. And, to not have Kenneth Walker and to have Zach Charbonnet go off the way he did, that was a super impressive win by the Seahawks. I thought the Cardinals would win the game. I thought the Seahawks were kind of fortunate the way they beat the Jets with the Leonard Williams pick 6. And, the Cardinals, I thought, were clearly the better team against the Vikings, even though they lost that game. For the Seahawks to go into Arizona, win by double digits like that, I thought that was their most impressive win of the season and the most important one, right? And that's the team they're going toe-to-toe with for the division lead. And now the Cardinals are pretty much out of it with that huge win by the Seahawks. They're up 2 games, and they beat them head-to-head, so they're really up 3 games, which means the Cardinals have very little chance now. So now it's really about the Rams and I guess to a lesser extent the Niners.
And what about the Rams? They beat the Bills, 452 yards, total offense, 28 first downs, 11 for 15 on third down conversions. And here's the Bills. They got to go to Detroit 12-1. That D's got to they can't do that again 2 weeks in a row, Ross.
I was very surprised. Now, that's why I always say when I'm talking about the Rams on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, or maybe even on the Even Money Betting Podcast, I always say the Rams have a puncher's chance because with Stafford at quarterback and then having Cooper Kupp and especially Puka Nacua, if Stafford's on that day, look out because his upside, his high end is still about as good as anybody's high end when he's really on fire like he was yesterday. And the Bills, they were at the wrong place at the wrong time for a Matthew Stafford on fire game, and that really hurts them a lot.
Yep.
That pretty much takes away realistic chance for them to get home field advantage, the number 1 seed, with the Chiefs once again finding a way, somehow, some way, to beat the Chargers. It just seems unlikely at this point that they'll be able to do much of anything, they being the Bills, in terms of getting that number 1 seed. They're going to have to play much better against the Lions. I guess the good news is they've already clinched, the AFC East, and they're kind of battling now to be the 2nd or 3rd seed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think reasonable minds can probably disagree maybe as to how important that is, although I think you'd much rather have Pittsburgh have to come up to Buffalo than vice versa.
Yeah, and those Steelers beat the Browns 27-14. Why are things working out for Russell Wilson when they didn't work out famously or infamously in Denver?
I think, first of all, I think there's a better team around him, but I do think that Arthur Smith, the former Falcons head coach, who's now the offensive coordinator for the Steelers, I think he's done an excellent job playing to Russell Wilson's strengths, right? They run the ball, then they take some deep shots off of play action. It almost felt like Sean Payton in Denver wanted, first of all, the year before, Nathaniel Hackett has been proven to be not a good coordinator, right? Like that's a proven fact at this point. As for Russell Wilson, the next year with Sean Payton wants someone to run his offense. This is my offense, you run it. And Bo Nix is a better fit in that than Russell Wilson is. Now, in Pittsburgh, Arthur Smith said, you know what? I kind of know you like to take deep shots. You're going to give it to our guys when they have a one-on-one chance. And they've designed an offense around that's running the ball, play action, giving guys deep shots, and it suits him very, very well.
You love Arthur Smith, don't you? I remember you talking about him before he got the job in Atlanta. You were talking him up. What do you like so much about him?
3 things I really like about Arthur Smith, okay? Full transparency. Number 1, he's a former offensive lineman, which I like former offensive linemen. He likes to run the ball. He played offensive line in North Carolina. Number 2, his first coaching job, he was quality control in Washington my last year in the NFL. So I know Arthur a little bit and got to know him a little bit that year, and he's a really good dude, which, by the way, leads to number 3. I didn't realize this until the end of the year when someone told me, but you would have never known. And you guys may or may not know this. His father is Fred Smith, the founder and chairman of FedEx, right? So you're talking about a guy that grew up incredibly privileged, I think is probably the best way to say it. And so what I think about when people are in that situation, you know, I'm always impressed when someone in that situation is as much of a grinder and a hard worker as Arthur is, right? Doesn't need to be. Like, didn't need to work his butt off to make himself a good college football player. Didn't need to work 16, 18-hour days as a quality control coach for a decade. You know, he could probably be on some island somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, it's very impressive to me when people, like, everything he's accomplished, it's because of what he's done and the hours and time he's put in. And I just have a healthy respect for that.
I tell you, if Fred Smith was my dad, I wouldn't be interviewing you right now. I tell you that, Ross. And all due respect. Hey, my front page story, Christmas around the corner.
It is coming. It is getting here before you know it. I love sending you guys autographs in the mail. All you have to do is go to myfrontpagestory.com. You're able to get any loved one, but especially in my mind, a parent or a grandparent before it's too late. This incredible gift. It's a story written all about them, how special they are, how amazing they are. Like my mom and people's grandma, look at it. They have it hanging up in their house, which is just incredible. Give someone the type of gift that they'll look at every day and be a constant reminder of how much you love them. And if you do it, I will send you an autograph in the mail. Ross@rosstucker.com. So after you do it, go ahead, forward it to me, Ross@rosstucker.com. Or if you want the video of me making fun of Rick, I can do that as well. Look, I'll do whatever you want me to do. But you got to go to myfrontpagestory.com first. Then you got to email me, Ross@rosstucker.com second.
I think we went a little over here, Ross, and I'll say it again. Sorry. Okay, there you go. That's like 4 stories in this segment.
It's not about that. It's not about that. When I'm talking about myfrontpagestory.com, there's no reason to say sorry. It's not about that.
Yeah. Very good. Next week. Thanks, my friend.
Later, boys.